Hey everyone, welcome to episode 65 of At the Coffee Table podcast. I am Jason Klink, your host, and I'm doing a solo podcast episode today. A topic that I'm very passionate about. And given the current global environment, I thought it was an important podcast to have today. In episode 65 here of the podcast, I'm going to be talking about the need for very strong leadership. And that goes from the highest office in the land to the lowest position or lowest and smallest organization anywhere across this nation or even across the world. There's really a global need for strong leadership, leaders that motivate, that inspire, that help take care of their people, leaders that aren't standing back or sitting on their hands and waiting for results of an initiative, results of any direction. One of the things that I've learned here over the last few years is there's a lot of us that came from the fire service specifically that, it used to be a top-down leadership. You had the chief officer on top. He gave the directives or the orders, and it flowed down from there. The whole shit rolls downhill theory. There's many organizations that have adopted, cultivating and running their organizations from the bottom up and cultivating leadership from within, inspiring leadership and motivating leadership from within. But from my years in the fire service, I remember a handful of chief officers or line officers that motivated their guys and girls, and you wanted to go to work with them. And when they came up maybe with a project within the firehouse, everybody kind of jumped at it and got to work and saw it through and saw its successful conclusion of the project. Those type of leaders, we followed into burning buildings because we knew we'd be well taken care of and everything be, looked out for. And then there were the leaders that you looked at if you were sitting on a piece of fire apparatus and you're going to a call and you looked up front and went, ugh, because they may have been, a line officer or a chief officer, but they weren't the strongest leader. They may have been good administratively, and that's why they were in the position. But when it came to, an emergency scene or a fire ground, that's where they were weak at. And, again, handful of those types of leaders that instead of motivating and inspiring and taking care of their people, they would stand back with their arms crossed. They wouldn't lead by example, and they would just let certain things unfold as they went along. Problem with letting things unfold, especially in that environment, emergency services environment, people can get hurt or killed. And there's a lot of leaders out in and outside of the fire service that don't understand the liability that comes with being in those higher positions, especially emergency services. There's a ton of liability because you don't want anybody to get hurt or killed, and that's on you. And that leads into 100% ownership. If you're leading an organization, you have to take 100% ownership of the entire organization. That means for your directives and your decisions, all the way down to the performance of the team. If you don't take 100% ownership, you're not fulfilling your role as a leader. If something goes wrong, it's on you, regardless of whose fault it might be. It's on you. If something goes right, it still can fall on you, which is a great thing, but you should pass it along to your team. Strong leadership is necessary in order to give or pass on that 100% ownership to your team, because members of your team are going to want to feel some type of ownership to the mission, to the projects that are going on, to the outcomes of both of those. Because realistically, if they don't have some type of ownership in it, they're not going to be passionate about it. They're not going to be motivated. And when that happens, there's a trust issue. There's a trust and a confidence issue. If your group, if your team does not trust you as a leader, any directives that you pass along are going to be very empty, and they're going to be second guessed, and that shouldn't happen. So looking at trust and confidence, that's something that's a two-way street. is something that has to be built. It's built over communication because of strong. And a lot of the stuff I've talked to and I've written about, I've harped on about, and it's just from my experience in the world that I used to work in. It's my experience with the education that I've given myself, and it's my experience from looking at other organizations, working with leaders that have come about in order to improve on their overall team. I look now, and I have great pride in helping instruct and train some of the fire service leaders of today, especially from my old department. The kids that I called them, the kids that I had that I was fortunate enough to train are now leaders themselves, and I hope I brought them value enough and impressed on them enough the importance of being a strong leader, of not just standing back and letting things unfold, of passing on their knowledge and their experience as they move forward, because that's the only way, especially in that business, that's the only way that strong leaders are built, is passing on that knowledge, that training, those experiences. That's building legacy. That's building your own legacy for after when you're gone, that legacy lives on, good or bad or indifferent. I had a lot of growing to do. I was a young officer in the fire service. I had a lot of growing, a lot of learning. And I think back now of if I was to be that leader now versus what the leader I was then, things would be a lot different. Definitely wouldn't be so damn high strung as I was then. But I also take pride in the fact of being able to step back and looking at what's unfolding and looking what may be coming in the future. You have to know how to engage your people. As a strong leader, you have to know how to engage. How do you engage your people? Is it giving them a title? Is it a promotion? Is it putting them in charge of a project? Is it putting them in charge of an initiative? That's how you engage your people, because it gives them ownership. It gives them that sense of pride to be able to give their experience and give their knowledge into, or infuse it into those projects and maybe those initiatives. So I just wanted to take this short podcast today to talk about strong leadership. I've seen weak leadership, and it doesn't go well. I worked in an environment where we had both, and working for the strong leadership, boy, everyone want to come to work, and they want that extra mile, they want that extra step. They saw their initiatives through, they saw their work through, and then I saw the weak leadership where nobody really cared. There were, performance evaluations that were never tied to training initiatives that really meant it was your signature on a piece of paper. It was a piece of paper. That's all it was. But with this weak leadership, it turned into disciplinary opportunities, which those should never be that way. So people were too scared of getting in trouble and getting disciplined to go that extra step, to go that extra mile. And you see how all that unravels. It's not a good environment, and it takes morale, puts it right in the tank, takes the culture and puts it right in the tank. And when you're leading and managing a staff or an organization by fear tactics, you're going to get in trouble if you don't do it this way. Don't try to have any kind of thought process outside the norm. If you stay within policy, you never get in trouble. But if you are, working an initiative and you're taking that, trying to go that extra, but if you're thinking in the back of your head, well, I might get in trouble if I do this, I'm not going to do it. That's where we breed the culture of, well, I'm just going to come to work. I'm going to collect a paycheck. I'm going to punch in, I'm going to punch out, and then I'm going to leave. And it doesn't matter if we leave things undone, if we leave projects undone, because at the end of the day, I'm just going to go home because I'm just collecting a paycheck. I have no vested interest in the mission of this organization. And I have there's no positives for me to go that extra mile because it's not built into the culture. If you're not building in the positives, there's no reason for these people to go that extra mile. And they're not going to. They're just not going to. So strong leadership will promote that. Strong leadership will provide the tools and the necessary resources and allow the team to think outside the box, to work outside the box. As long as nobody's getting hurt, breaking laws, or getting killed, give them give them that leeway, give them that space to work outside the box, because you never know what kind of ideas are going to come out of that. You know, you get the group working together and they're thinking and they're working and they're putting things together. That's a great environment to be in. That's a great culture to be in. If you're not promoting that, you're not allowing that, you're just not, you're not a strong leader. You're not providing strong leadership. So guys, I'd love to hear your comments. I'd love to hear what you think. I'd love to hear your experiences. What are your experiences between strong and weak leadership? Because right now we need strong leaders. Right now we need people to step up, and we need to have people step up and be strong leaders in leadership roles. And that's inside and outside of organizations. It can be inside a civic organization, a business. It could be outside in a political arena. Right now, more than ever, we need the opportunity to have strong leaders within these organizations. So again, drop me your comments, share your experiences. I'd love to hear what you thought, and share this with anybody you think might get some value out of it. So with that, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Have a great day.